In today's video, I'm going to walk you through how you can get more focused and finally stop procrastinating. So if you're watching this, you have maybe experienced this feeling of being unmotivated, unfulfilled, and just not feeling like you're living up to your potential. And a lot of times people think that it's a motivation problem. But what I'm here to tell you is that it's not actually a motivation problem. I think it's just that you're super distracted by all of the things around you. And by the end of this video, I want you to understand how you can actually go through a process to eliminate distractions and finally be able to take action, which is actually going to make you feel more motivated by the end. So what made me think about this is that I am coming up on almost 600 podcast episodes. And as I was thinking about that, I'm like, wow, that is a lot of episodes. And as I was reading a book recently, I realized that kind of the secret, if you will, to the endurance and to the ability to do the 600 episodes, it actually isn't motivation and it isn't inspiration. I think it's really just the process that I use to create these videos and create these episodes. And I want to share that process with you because I think it can actually help you deal with the lack of focus and that procrastinating feeling that has impacted me in the past, but it's also impacted some of my clients. And I actually really like sharing these details and this information to help people just feel better about the work that they're doing. And so it's a combination of my own personal experience, but also inspired by this book that I've been reading by Rob Dial, which is called Level Up: How to Get Focused, Stop Procrastinating, and Upgrade Your Life. And Rob Dial is one of the top podcasters in the entire world. He has a podcast called The Mindset Mentor. I've actually invested and joined his life coaching program, and he's helped me grow my own coaching business. And he is like the real deal. He's done over 1,300 podcast episodes, hundreds of millions of downloads, and he's helped tens of thousands of people like me grow and build a personal development and coaching business. And in this book, he kind of starts by talking about why people aren't taking action. So if you got drawn to the title of this episode or the title of this video with the word procrastination in there, then you've likely experienced that before. But the main reasons why people don't take action, number one, is actually because of fear. Most of the time, fear is what's actually getting in the way. It's not just procrastination. It's not just like not knowing what to do. Most of the time, it's a fear. And fear is really just a negative scenario that you're coming up with about a future state. And most of the time, it's crazy to realize this, but most of the time, the things that you're worried about don't actually happen in real life. I think that they've done a study on this. I forget which university did this, and they interviewed people and asked them what they were worried about. And then they followed up with them weeks and months later, and they found out that 85% of the things that people worry about never actually happen. But most of the time, this fear is actually a negative scenario in the future, right? So we're spending all of this time worried about negative scenarios in the future. Most of the time, they don't ever happen. So that's probably the first thing that is getting in the way of you from taking action, or most people out there. The second is your identity. And this is the story that you're telling yourself about who you are or what you're capable of. And we are the stories that we tell ourselves. And most of the time, the stories that we're telling ourselves are not empowering. And so that's likely the second reason why you're not taking action. But the third reason why you're not taking action typically comes down to just being distracted. And I think that in this day and age, if you're somebody like me who is dependent upon using like your phone for growing your business, or using your phone to listen to podcasts or to connect with other people, you can use that for good. But a lot of times with all of the apps, all of the notifications, we're looking at our phone hundreds to thousands of times a day, that when it comes to actually sitting down and doing focused work, we're so distracted that we can't even do the work that we know that we need to do. And if you've dealt with any of these things, if you've dealt with the fear, if you've dealt with the kind of the negative identity or the distraction, that leads to these feelings of procrastination, distraction, and ultimately feeling unmotivated or overwhelmed. A lot of the high performers that I talk to, when I ask them like what they're struggling with, a lot of times it's that they're so like overwhelmed by all the things that they need to do, when really it's just that they're so distracted, and this feeling of distraction creates the overwhelmed and unmotivated feelings. So this is all just a way of like setting it up. I have definitely experienced all of this, but when it comes to when I'm working on creating content, if it's a YouTube video like this, or if I'm creating podcast episodes or different courses or things for my business, the first thing that I try and do is eliminate the distractions. And I have relied on a couple of tools that I'll describe in a minute here that have helped me to really just focus on the task at hand, block out the noise, and get the work done. And in this book, Level Up by Rob Dial, he describes it as the focused work protocol. And there's 6 different steps here that he outlines, and I want to describe what that process is and how I have used it as well. And so the first step is to focus. And this is where, like, honestly, the most important thing is to just block out the noise. So what I typically do is I'll put my phone on airplane mode. This morning when I was recording videos, I put my phone in the other room. I put it on airplane mode and I put it in a drawer so that I'm not distracted by it. And it's really like helpful to have some type of a routine as you're getting into the activity. Sometimes like I'll play some music that helps me just get into the zone. I'll get my phone away, I'll eliminate distractions, and then I'm able to just sit and focus on the task at hand. And so at this point, you have your ritual, you've eliminated your distractions, and then it's time to actually do the work. The most effective thing that I have found to actually do the work is a technique called the Pomodoro method. This is where you set a timer for 25 minutes and you focus on one task for that 25 minutes. So for me, typically with the podcast, I do a little bit of prep for each episode. I'll write out some notes, and in that 25 minutes, I'm just focused on that one episode, taking the notes, prepping it, and getting it done. Once those 25 minutes are up, that's when it's time to like stop and take a break. But as you're doing the work and you're in the 25-minute Pomodoro technique process, one of the things that you're going to have to do is what he calls persist. And this is where you fight through the agitation. So when you sit down to work and you start to put your brain with a specific task at mind, your brain is going to want to fight that new activity because your brain really wants to conserve energy and do everything that it possibly can to keep you alive. And so if you were doing something else before you were recording an episode or before you were focused on your task at hand, your brain is going to want you to stay in that more relaxed state. So you have to like fight through that little agitation and that little period where your brain is trying to get you to stop. But once you work through that initial hump and you just focus on the task at hand, you'll be able to just get through it and focus on the actual thing that you need to do. So at this point, we've talked about it. You've eliminated your distractions. You've set your 25-minute timer. You're focused on the task at hand. You've gotten through that one period of resistance. And once the 25 minutes is up, what I typically try and do is just take a 5-minute break. And honestly, I'm not great at this part, but in the book, he talks about in that 5-minute break is not using your phone at all. This is where it's good to just get up, go outside, just do something that is non-work related, focus on your breath, do whatever it is that you need to do. And that's a time to just reset and just give your mind a break. Because when you do that and you come back, you're going to feel more refreshed. So that's kind of what the process looks like for me. But taking it even a step further, one of the things that Rob talks about in the book with step 5 is reward. This is where you celebrate yourself for taking the action that you wanted to take. So if you are trying to do something like make a certain number of sales calls at work, or if you're working on creating content, or if you're working on typing up emails for some of your clients, what you want to do is you want to reward yourself for doing the action, not necessarily for getting the result that you want. Because when you really celebrate yourself, you actually release dopamine, and that dopamine is actually what makes you feel good about the process. And you've probably heard people talk about this, where you celebrate the journey rather than the results, or you fall in love with the process rather than the results. The way that you do that is actually by celebrating the action and celebrating the progress that you're making. This is one of the best ways to do that. And once you've gone through this cycle, you basically just repeat this process over and over and over and over again, and it becomes easier and easier and easier. And so this is just a process that you can use to just eliminate the procrastination, to shift into more of a focus mode so that you can get more work done. And when you get more work done, you actually feel better about the progress that you're making, and you're going to feel more motivated. Because a lot of people think that motivation is a requirement before you get started to taking the action. But the truth is actually the opposite. It's the action and the progress that you're making that makes you feel more motivated. So this is a process that you can use. This is a process that I've really used to help me create almost the 600 different podcast episodes at this point. And I wanted to share that with you. And so as I bring it back to you, if you are somebody who's struggling with procrastination, if you're somebody who's feeling distracted or just unmotivated or overwhelmed, then I want you to give this approach a shot, where you just sit down, eliminate the distractions, focus on the 25-minute timer, and just go to work. Because I really feel like this is something that has helped me. It's something that I've shared with my clients. They've gotten good results, and I want to share it with you as well. And I want to challenge you to go through the focus work protocol this week with one of your most important tasks and report back to me. Let me know how it goes. You can comment on this video. You can send me a DM on Instagram. Would love to connect with you. And I hope that this helps. Until next time, I'll talk to y'all later.